Before we start today's roundtable, I want to give special thanks to Checkster, our group sponsor. Checkster has become well known in the recruiting industry by providing a platform that easily captures reference checks in the hiring process. I myself have been a customer of theirs for years. I use a reference checking tool for all of my new hires. However, Checkster has now released a new product suite called Insights. This new product suite is really what has excited me to have Checkster as the group sponsor. With Insights, the Checkster platform now covers employees from cradle to grave and not just reference checking, starting when they apply, going to offer, through onboarding, then covering their work at your company, and then to the end with exit interviews. It's an easy to use, easy to understand way of giving and getting feedback from your peers. Checkster's simple goal: to build more productive and passionate teams. Now, if this concept of getting insights from your peers regarding your work sounds familiar, it should, because that's the simple goal of this group: connecting, communicating, collaborating. Support me, support the group. Follow the link below, recruiting.org/Checkster. This will take you to a landing page to sign up for a quick demo. If you are just thinking about automating your reference checking process, it'll be well worth your time. But I encourage you to check out the full Insights suite. I'd love to find out if you feel the way I feel about it. Now let's get to today's roundtable. Thank you everybody for attending episode 64 and Let's Talk Recruiting, where industry practitioners get together and talk about a variety of topics that we all face in our day-to-day talent acquisition activities. Today's topic is something that I think everybody deals with on a daily basis, and that's utilizing LinkedIn. The topic is best practices for recruiting on LinkedIn. I haven't met a recruiter yet who isn't utilizing LinkedIn, some more than others, and I'm sure there are people still out there that refuse to go on it. But for the most part, it's part of our daily lives. So let's jump into it. With us today, we have Katie Stevens out of Chicago. We have Roseanne Donahue out of New York City. We have Cinda Allen out of the San Francisco Bay Area, and Eric Jackweed out of Phoenix, but you seem to be moving around a lot on me. We'll still call Phoenix your home base for now. I'm very happy that I had an easy pronunciation of last names. If you've been following me along here, I always try to get people's last names right, but I think I had it pretty easy today. So thank you very much for having easy names to pronounce. All right. With that said, again, best practices for recruiting LinkedIn. Make sure you add any chat message to the chat area. Katie, I'm going to jump over to you and have you start the conversation if that's okay.
Sure, I'd love to. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Katie Stevens. I'm a talent acquisition leader at GE Healthcare. The businesses that my team support and recruit for is really anything within our commercial and digital organizations. So sales, service, finance, legal, HR, digital, commercial operations, and there's more to that list. But really, again, my team does about half of the recruiting for all of GE Healthcare nationally within the US. So something that I wanted to speak about today, and some of you may have it, some of you may not have it, but it goes hand in hand with LinkedIn Recruiter, and that's LinkedIn Talent Insights. So I will give you a little bit of a high-level overview, but happy to answer any questions about it. We have our teams using both LinkedIn Recruiter and LinkedIn Talent Insights, and that's because we really are upskilling and driving the conversation so that our team is really seen as true talent advisors. We want our teams to come to the job launch with data. We want them to come with market insights and talent insights so that we can drive the conversation, we can show our areas of expertise, and also lead our people leaders in the right direction so that they really understand what the market looks like, also what the competitive landscape looks like, and also think about areas that they may not have thought about before. So maybe it's looking at outside of our normal competitor base, or maybe it's looking at different companies who might have adjacent skill sets. So we really leverage LinkedIn Talent Insights a lot. And there's two parts to it. So if you haven't been on Insights before, you can either do a company profile. So if you're looking at, say, a people leader is really interested in a certain company, you can find out all sorts of interesting statistics about their workforce and narrow it down to the skills or even locations that you're looking for. or we can do a talent pool report. So say somebody, for example, in sales is looking to hire in a certain market, you can put in your skill sets and you can really narrow down how competitive the role may be, who else is advertising positions or similar positions in the area, where other companies are getting their talent from, so it can lead you down some different paths. So we really, really love LinkedIn Talent Insights. They've also, over the last year, really upped their game. So there is a connection point with Recruiter and with Insights so that you can actually go in and see the profiles that they're showing in their reports. And their reports are easily shared to any audience. You can download them in PDF copies. So really, it's all again about upskilling the conversation so that the recruiters are talent advisors, they know the market, and they can get data and statistics and different ways of looking at things to better drive the conversation.
Katie, a question for you around I've never used Insights tool directly myself, never been lucky enough to be at a company that had it. But as I say that, I am going to add a quick poll to the conversation. You're asking who has access to Talent Insights. Let me do that real quick. Everybody should see that coming through. So my question to you is kind of around the talent pool piece of it. Mm-hmm. And given today's scenario with the work from home being so predominant, have you had a chance to sort of, or how is that impacting how you look at the talent pools, and is it in that way? So let's say I work at a company, hey, 80% of our people, especially, let's say developers or software engineers, they can all work from anywhere now. So it's not a matter of, hey, I just have to primarily source out of one area. Has this work from home added or taken away from the power of Talent Insights and giving you back information, or how's that affected it at all?
That's a great question. So it certainly does impact any of our roles that can be worked remotely. So absolutely, then we would look at it from a national scope and we would pull our metrics a little bit differently. However, we still have a very significant boots on the ground regional operation and landscape. So we are still hiring in certain areas. Chicago is a huge market for us. Boston's a huge market. But then also all across the US, our customers are hospitals, our patients. So we still need our workforce for the most part to be that one-on-one facing. So we are still hiring in a variety of locations all throughout the US, or all throughout the US, where we need people to sit. So although our work from home option has expanded for certain areas, we still hold true where we do have locations that we recruit for as well.
Yeah, and this sort of back to all the panelists too. To me, it's like, if I can recruit from anywhere, let's just say within the US now, I got to be able to go back to my hiring team and say, it kind of opens up the window, because now you can recruit from different companies, if they're located elsewhere or what have you. Has anybody else on the panel too, have you worked with Insights? I've seen our poll. Katie, looks like you're one of the lucky few. Let's say it's an 80-20 split who has access to it and who doesn't. Has any other panelists ever worked with Insights directly?
No, not directly.
Gotcha. All right, Katie, so I'm going to keep peppering you with some more questions on this.
Sure. And I would even encourage, sorry, Sean, I would encourage to even just to get a license or two as well. So we do have licenses we are lucky to have for all of our recruiters are equipped with the licenses because we have a certain enterprise account. But even if somebody has a license on your team, then the reports are easily shareable. So it would allow access into that gateway.
All right, so that's good to know. If you have 10 recruiters, you don't need 10 licenses, right? You can basically get away with one. Is that what you're saying?
It's ideal that every recruiter could have one so that they can easily jump in and have and manipulate the data as they need it. But if we all know budgets are really tight right now. So if you just want to see what Insights is all about and at least give some exposure to your team, even just trying one, just so you can see what the tool has and the power of the tool.
If you do a talent pool search or even a company search in there, and I'm assuming with company search, you can do multiple companies at one time. Can you, once you find the talent, is it getting down to the individual level where you can kind of take the results from there and move into a a project folder, or is it just living in the Insights application?
Yeah, so that was one of our big requests. We work very closely with LinkedIn, and we have some great reps that we work closely with. And so one of our asks, even a couple of years back, was, hey, LinkedIn Talent Insights is awesome, but it doesn't connect to Recruiter. And they were two separate instances, or so we felt. And within the last year, that has all changed. And it changes the game with Insights, because now you can pull insights. So you can pull your talent pools, you can pull all the reporting, but oftentimes people leaders ask, well, I want either the backup data behind that. I want to know who they're talking about. Or from a recruiter perspective, you can go right into LinkedIn. You can transfer all of the people that they're using in their stats into Recruiter, into projects. So you can mine based on all of the parameters that you put into Insights. So it's really, not only are you able to show the market data, but you can also mine that data from the exact same parameters in the same search. So they really go hand in hand now.
Do you use the company function a lot? Because go ahead, sorry.
No, I was going to say we do actually. And we actually get requests for company reports outside of even our day-to-day recruiting. So even some of our top level executives are interested in what some of the other companies are doing. So they'll ask us to pull the information.
Yeah, because one thing I found a little disappointing with LinkedIn Recruiter is, and Eric, you're kind of the master on this stuff, so if you have any comments on this one, was the lack of ability to filter against company information. Right? It's all about the person for the most part. Uh, you can get companies, employee size, little things like that, but drilling down into it, I don't think you can do industry even or what have you.
No.
So can you do that in Talent Insights and then get your results back and move back into your folder?
So you can do it a couple of different ways. So the company search is usually focused on one company. So, say you have XYZ company, you can filter whatever parameters you want, and then you can take some of that search into a folder. But oftentimes what we use is the market intel report. So meaning you have a difficult search, and say it's within digital, and say you're looking for UX designers or UI designers, just as an example. And in Chicago. So you can take those parameters, you can either filter via companies, you can open it up to whatever companies you want, and it'll give you all different statistics. It'll give you how hard it is to fill, or how hard they believe it is to fill, what other companies have similar job postings that you can click in and view. You also can get some diversity statistics, and then you can get a number of suggested leads, and then those leads you can put into LinkedIn projects. So really the data goes back and forth. And then if you want to do individual company searches, you can find out in that company search where that company is pulling the talent from, where they're losing talent, their projected attrition numbers, the diversity mix, some comp data. So really you can look at it twofold.
How, this sort of for the other panelists. So I didn't know you could, because I remember not being able to connect or being told that. So the fact that you can connect now, to me, I don't want to sound like cliche, but that sounds like a game changer to me. Because now hey, it's great. Before I could go get information and go talk to hiring managers, but now if I can pull that information into a project folder that I can go recruit from, now I'm benefiting directly from it. To the other panelists, did you know that it could do that now?
Yeah, it's being able to pull things in from other folders is huge. Being able to search other folders is very valuable. So in LinkedIn Recruiter, you do have industry capability, so you can search by industry. That's one of the filters, where that isn't available in LinkedIn Free. That you can't even see in LinkedIn Free the industry anymore. So you can't even see what people are, and you can only have one industry, which is kind of tricky.
Katie, would you say it's a must-have?
I would say, so Sean, you hit it on the head. We liked it before, but we could see the vision for where they were going. We love it now. Now it's a game changer. As soon as they had that connection point where the recruiters could actually go in and use the data, and it generated leads for you with your targeted parameters, it's huge. We also do a lot of media campaigns. pipelining campaigns and pipeline builders that they don't connect to insights, but we can use a lot of the same parameters that we use when we're building our insights reports for some of those media campaigns too. So we liked, like I said, we liked it before, we love it now.
Have you been able to attribute how many hires or what the percentage of increased hires is since you started using it?
That's a really good question. So we unfortunately don't track the connection with the insights reports. However, it definitely upskills our game as far as being a talent advisor. So we had some rebuilding to do with our brand, our talent acquisition brand over the last couple of years. And now the feedback from the people leaders they are very confident in our in-house talent acquisition team and what we can do and deliver. So although we don't have direct hiring statistics from it, it does build up our capabilities and also our reputation.
You know, it seems it would be great. I know we were thinking about opening an office in Arizona. And for me, just doing research and talent mapping, it was like, yeah, we can do front end people there, but we don't want to look for back end people. And this is why. So just having that at the fingertips would be incredible.
Yep. Yeah, and we've done that too. We have our leaders come to us and ask for, hey, we have a competitor that we're looking for some information on, or hey, exactly that, we are looking at moving locations, or what do you think the availability to hire in this area is, and we can pull it up pretty quickly. So it's a great tool.
Oh.
Does it show departures from a company?
Yes.
Does it show individuals who are leaving?
It does not.
Okay.
So it gives numbers or projected numbers of their attrition rates, but it does not go to individuals.
Can you do it departures by role or function?
You can. Yep. You can play with it and manipulate it so that you can pull it out for different functions.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting to me because it's like a lot of times you'll see within a recruiting team, hey, the XYZ company, people are mad, they're leaving, get on it.
Yep.
Or if there's some downsizing and you start to get flagged, people are leaving, or better if you see people who are looking to leave, right? You can get early in the game. That's kind of like a word of mouth game recruiters communicate to each other, I've seen. But yeah, I kind of have a system to kind of flag it for you that's broader, especially if it's national. Because I just think this whole work from home, where you can recruit from so many different locations, isn't so important anymore. It's going to be real interesting. I don't know if it's going to be a benefit or a challenge to recruiting, to be blunt with you, but it's nice to see the tools that can sort of give you that scope of it. All right, we're talking about LinkedIn Recruiter a lot. I'm going to ask another poll here really quick about who has LinkedIn Recruiter account. So let me get that going. And then Katie, thank you very much. That was very informative. I do think it's one of those tools where hey, everybody could, or everybody would if they could, meaning if they had budget. I think LinkedIn account managers should be promoting that. Hey, now connects. Make sure every single recruiter knows that because they can probably be the best salesperson inside the company. All right. Thank you very much. Roseanne, we're going to jump over to you and to your items.
Thanks, Sean. Hi, everyone. My name is Roseanne Donahue. I head up talent acquisition at Radware, which is a mid-size high-tech company specializing in cybersecurity. The types of roles that we recruit for are regional sales managers, sales engineers, architects, security analysts, marketing, and some other corporate functions. We have about 220 employees in North America, about 1,000 employees globally. The topic that I wanted to discuss today is a little bit of a different spin. I wanted to discuss search engine optimization of the individual LinkedIn profile. So in a prior life, I actually used to be a resume writer, SEO LinkedIn profile writer, job search coach, interview coach, and actually freelanced at a company that specialized in SEO for LinkedIn. And I learned a lot of tips and tricks around what goes on behind the scenes with the search engine algorithms that LinkedIn uses. So it could be used both for the job seeker, but could also be used for the recruiter. So I wanted to just kind of mention quickly the different sections in the profile that the algorithm is actually pulling from, and the different ways that you can make sure that your profile is set up for SEO so that actually job seekers can find you as a recruiter in a specific industry. So it's all about keywords, right? So just to kind of quickly walk through the different sections of the profile, first and foremost, I would say that the headline is probably the most important one. As you know, when you're looking at a string of search results, the headline is probably one of the first things that you see. So the idea is really to stuff the headline with the most relevant keywords that you want to be found for. So for example, if you're a recruiter in cybersecurity, I would put in my headline, cybersecurity, DDoS mitigation, web application firewall, cloud security, all the top keywords that you would want to find. And then the second section would actually be the summary. So a lot of folks, have a list of what their top skills are. I would suggest to actually have, those top keywords where you would want to be found for the most powerful keywords that somebody would be searching. In addition, the customizable URL for your personal link to your profile is also part of the SEO, believe it or not. So a lot of folks actually customize that URL to just have it be their name. That, if you really truly want to take advantage of all the SEO sections, you can tailor that link to actually have keywords as well. For example, cybersecurity recruiter. In addition, every job title under the work experience is part of the SEO. So stuffing, each job title section under your work experience with the appropriate keywords is another field that the SEO searches. In addition, the skills section. So, recruiters are not searching on, the keyword analytical skills. They're searching on cloud security. They're searching on web application firewall. So really optimizing and putting your top skills keywords at the top and utilize all 50 and not just kind of soft skills that nobody's really searching on. What are really the keywords that folks are looking at or looking for? And then a couple other things within LinkedIn that actually do affect the outcome on the search engine optimization is number of connections, which you probably may know. The more connections you have, the higher you come up in the search results, as well as number of groups. So, more groups that you're part of that have those keywords, that also increases your chances of coming up in the top search results. So I'll give you an example. When I was a resume writer and that was my sole focus, I created my profile to really be targeted as a resume writer and a LinkedIn profile writer, and stuffed every section and every SEO field with the right words. And I literally came up as one or two in the search results for folks looking for a resume writer in the New York area. So that's just, a testament to the fact that this really does work. I don't think folks realize how those search engine optimization items take effect and how those algorithms work. So I hope that was helpful. Any questions?
Yeah, it's kind of like a flip side to this, and I'm going to give you a real world situation. You tell me how it applies to this, because I like how you're coming from a different perspective from the recruiter, but from the candidate, right? So a head of TA at a company said that they were getting pushback from their employees that they were not recruiting enough diverse talent. And they were coming back with, well, we'll give you the numbers. We believe we are. Here's what we're doing to it. Here's where we're going. And there was sort of some contention around LinkedIn, because LinkedIn got brought up, and the pushback from some employees was, well, diverse talent people, the type of people we're talking about aren't necessarily on LinkedIn. I don't know if that's, to me, that's sort of to be determined, but it comes back where, okay, let's encourage candidates to be on LinkedIn and, kind of to your point, to know how to use LinkedIn. Sort of kind of stepping into the whole diversity conversation that's going on. To me, it's a two-way street. Yep, recruiters are here to recruit in diverse talent. On the flip side of this, let's make sure that diverse talent knows how to come up on the recruiter's radar. And that's sort of a tricky way. And do you have any suggestions around that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not related to SEO, but actually I'm in the middle of planning a webinar with a few of my new hires that happen to be diverse candidates into a new role that we created. It's called an associate sales manager. It's kind of like a junior sales manager, and it's sort of a junior role to get your foot in the door into a sales role in cybersecurity. And I've been partnering with a little mentorship group that was created by one of our employees called Us in Technology. And it's really, geared at candidates who may not necessarily know that a career in technology is an option. So we're about to actually launch a webinar where we talk about best practices, tips. We're going to interview employees on, how did they get their foot in the door in the industry? And, LinkedIn would be, one of those ways. So just educating folks on, what you need to do to spruce up your profile and, learn from others. So that would be, my thoughts on that question, Sean.
Cinda?
Yes.
I'm going to kind of
Go ahead.
I'm going to kind of segue over to you because I think you were going to be talking about searching for underrepresented talent. I think it's a really good segue from what Roseanne's speaking to.
And while we're talking about this, and I don't mean to be so nitpicky because I know what I look like, but my husband is from Cameroon. My son is Black. That's how the world sees him. And we're also Jewish. So you've got all these things going up. We've got to stop using the word diverse. They're underrepresented minorities. Diverse, if you look up that word, means different. And because my son is a Black man doesn't make him different than a white man. So those are little things, but those are things that we really have to start changing on how we talk about these things. As far as, and that's one of the things when you're looking for underrepresented minorities in different areas, there's a lot of things you can do, but I think a lot of people use LinkedIn kind of as a quick fix, like, oh, I need 50 people to reach out to. Or I need, I don't know what's happening. I reached out to 100, but only 10 get back to you. So it's really important how you write the profiles and how you look at them. So when I'm doing a search, many times I will look for a manager of the type of group of engineers that I'm looking for, what I'm looking for. And then I see who they referred. And then I reach out to those people. So I, of course, start with the managers I know who I think very highly of and go from there. For getting right into the JEDI piece, which is what it's called now, believe it or not, I also put in schools, historically Black universities and colleges. I put in all women's colleges. I look for colleges that have very high underrepresented groups in them. So you can find all that out from the public. And again, this is research, and I don't consider myself a sorcerer, but I guess for this I am. You put in groups, so whether someone belongs to WITI for women in technology, or Black engineers, or NSBE, which is the National Association. Well, I don't actually remember what it stands for, but it's for Black engineers. Women in engineering, Hispanic professionals, the Black Professional Network, see if they belong to those things. There's a lot of events, Lesbians Who Tech, Afrotech, Women's Hack, DevColor. I talk to all of those, and I may be at a company that can't afford to go to one, but I still talk to them and keep up with them and things like that. And you'd be surprised how many people have been referred to me just from that. Also, most of them now have their own job boards where you can post things or you can pay to be able to search on it. So those are a few things. Be aware that when you're recruiting people from that are underrepresented, be prepared for the question, what is your company doing once you get me in there? I have been asked that question so many times. So it's not just, listen, recruiters, we can bring people in right and left, but if we don't have the programs in place to keep someone there, then it doesn't work because they're not going to stay. They don't feel supported. So that's the other thing to be aware of. So I look at groups, I look at what they're doing. And I know we're supposed to keep this to LinkedIn, but just an FYI, I also go to meetups. I don't go to, but I look at meetups for different groups. You can join and then see who's there and things like that. I also think it's really good to look for, so if you're looking for someone with an older technology and you have this brand new technology, what I will also do is look at the people who have the new technology but maybe don't have the old one listed, because chances are they've done it. If they're in there. Now you also have to be able to explain that we're looking at moving forward and things like that, but that's a way to add more people to your profile or to your search, because they may not have it listed because they think, oh, it's old, why do it? Now, don't reach out to a COBOL programmer or a Java programmer hoping they'll do COBOL. Don't do that. But you have to be reasonable with what you're looking for. When reaching out, the subject line I find to be very interesting. One that I tried out that worked very well for me was for someone who went to a different job. I said, oops, you took the wrong job. You're supposed to be here. And then, with my note, it's very short and sweet. It's look, I know you just joined blank. This is what we're doing. And if just in case it's not what you hope it should be, I'd love to talk to you. I get so many conversations that way. And though it's very rare that someone will say, okay, I've only been here for 3 months, but yeah, I'm going to jump. You'd be surprised at how many people I hire a year or two later just to remember from that. So that's another way to do it. If someone goes to a university where I went to, or one of our executives went to, if they went to Cal Poly, I'll put go Mustangs, and that'll get people to open it. And I find that just being creative that way, and people will oftentimes, because you always hate people that say no, right? You want them to say yes, but I'm not interested. But when they say no, who still write to me and say, great subject line. And that makes them remember not only you, but their company you're at. So there might be things that come up later. I don't put titles in unless I know that I'm looking for someone who works at a specific company and I know these are their 3 titles. I don't put titles in at all. I usually have a list of like 20 keywords and I get about 10 of them from the hiring manager, and then I play with them. So I'm not looking for the quick hit. I'm looking for people I'm going to be back to. And by using some of these issues, like I have about right now, which is I consider bad, but a 50% return rate on what I put out there. And I think on LinkedIn, that's pretty good right now. So that's where that is. I also know with LinkedIn, many people are starting to look at things like augmenting with Gem or Hire Tool or things like that scrub other things. I do source occasionally on GitHub, which is very hard to do. And the other day I was on it for 3 hours and found 2 people I wanted to reach out to. But finding some other tools that actually do that, because I hear people saying in the chat that LinkedIn is too expensive and things like that. So you can try other things that scrub a lot of job boards that, we're trying to do this. So that's kind of where I go and how I do this. I put in all those things that someone who is from an underrepresented minority would have in there. I don't, I tell my managers, and I don't have on job descriptions, college degree needed, or that it's a prerequisite, they have to have it. Because in this country, getting a college degree is I can't think of the word, but it's not for everyone, right? Because not everyone can afford it anymore. Not everyone can do it. So someone else who's worked just as long, it doesn't have a college degree, and did all of their, got to the same place as someone with a college degree, might be the person you want to hire. I also am very careful in job descriptions to make sure it goes to both women and men. And I'm sure all of us on the panel have talked about that to other people.
Yes,
so a few things that I do, and I'm sorry I wasn't looking at the notes.
Yeah, you got quite a few in there directed at you. To your earlier comments, the only way I've been able to try and figure out if I'm trying to target diverse talent is to incorporate the group, right, in my search filter.
Well, no, I do groups, I do universities. I mean, and again, I say don't make universities necessary, but if someone's at an HBCU, I also with my hiring managers, because what I do is do research on, like, if we're in San Francisco, I want to know what the population of San Francisco is, because what you want your company to do is mirror where your company is, and that's changing a bit now with working from home. I am one of those few that do not believe it's going to be forever. I think companies will always kind of go back to wanting to have a group of people. But if you're looking at that, so my numbers that I look for in San Francisco is very different than a counterpart I have in Oakland who's looking for those things. Who she wants her pipeline to be is very different than what I want mine to be. Just because you have to look at your community, where it is and what it is there. If you're, trying to open an office in a place that really the surrounding area where it is has no diversity, and you want someone right there, then you need to find someone that will relocate. And that will help a lot. So no, as far as the searching goes, yes, I put in groups. I put in, different colleges. I put in different things when I'm reaching out in the subject line. I might say, I love that you're a member of blank, would love to chat about it more. So anything that's going to catch their attention, because they're used to getting a lot of emails that mean nothing to them. So when you're going for diversity, I don't believe you can do that template and just send it out.
I'm going to add another quick poll here around the usage of tagging if you have a LinkedIn Recruiter account. So let me launch this poll. And as we do this, and this, send it to you and to all the panelists, and Roseanne, this may come back to you around setting up your profile correctly to be found, but are people using the tagging tool inside of LinkedIn?
Yeah.
How are you using it, Eric?
Variety of attributes that wouldn't be in the profile, words that are not associated, internal jargon that we may flag, as well as ranking. We can rank candidates in a way that we code internally sometimes that are useful within departments or teams. So it's just a way of quickly flagging things and being able to sort.
Yeah, because the reason why I bring that in is because I think it falls under diversity, it falls under other type of searching, is the things you find out when you're communicating with somebody, or you're finding out on a GitHub that it's not listed on their LinkedIn profile. Let me just share this real quick. So kind of send it to your point where, hey, you went and found this person on GitHub through various ways. It's not clear, like against a search. And anybody correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm defining tagging incorrectly. But once you tag somebody with it, I can now go back and search against that, any filters present or in the future, or the whole team could search off of it. But it's that identifying mark, for lack of better words, that you can search against. So we talk about how do you know if somebody is a member of the underrepresented group, right? Cindy, I'll go with your verbiage, but I got to admit, you got a long road ahead of you to change the naming. But good luck with that one.
I think a lot of it being in San Francisco and California, we are on the forefront of that. So here it is what we use.
Yeah.
So I apologize if I sounded preachy, especially to anyone on the panel, because I don't mean to be that way. To me, I just try to educate on what people respond to and what they don't respond to.
Absolutely. You're not sounding pushy at all. But to me, like the being able to, hey, I found somebody who is of that underrepresented talent. How do I know that again in the future? How do my other teammates know that her in my LinkedIn Recruiter account? Tagging is a way to do that. But now my question back to everybody is, can you put on a tag, because you put in the written word now, can you put race, gender, anything like that? Are we getting into compliance issues, or if you utilize tagging, can it cross a compliance line?
You can.
Eric, you shook your head no.
There's no problem. Companies have been putting things in projects, even if you don't use tags. They are people who move candidates to projects in LinkedIn that are diversity pools of candidates. They just label the whole folder diverse candidate pool, and they just move it in there. And in the pool is everybody other than the white guys. That's it. And they just have a broad pool of diverse candidates that they can use across multiple pools of candidates in certain cities.
Because I'm wondering if it's under the umbrella of, like, everybody has their own secret way to DNR somebody, right? To do not recruit. They're not a culture fit or what have you, but you get yourself into some issues if you broadly use that brush against people. So I'm just wondering, as we go down this world, on this road, what type of impact it'll be on that.
I will be surprised if LinkedIn within the next year will slowly integrate more filters that will be like some of the filters that are out there available now. I think the first ones you'll probably see is when candidates apply for positions on LinkedIn, they'll be asked to self-nominate and share that information. And then they'll be asked probably, would they like to share that on their profile? So you'll see gender be the first one, I think, because I think most people are real comfortable with saying, I am willing to share my gender, and it'll be an opt-in capability for people on LinkedIn at some point. And then I think for those who apply and those who want to share their race, they'll have an ability to opt in, because I think LinkedIn Recruiter customers want some of those diversity filters and tags. And the easiest way to get that is from the candidate opting in. And I think LinkedIn will answer that call eventually.
Yeah, and in the meantime, you use what I talked about, which is the colleges, the groups they belong to, and events they've gone to. Yeah, it's running a very fine line, to be honest with you. And universities that are not HBCU or women's colleges are running against this all the time. It's running a very fine line, because you want to hire the very best candidate. You don't want to hire someone because they're Black, because they're Asian, because they're whatever they are, a woman, right? You want to hire the very best candidate. What you want to present for interviews, you need to make sure that your pipeline has the best of all different types of people.
Is there a way to search against, or not against, but search for recommendations? I don't know if there is, besides looking at a person's profile.
There's no filter for recommendations. There are some people who have done it using Bing and other search engines, but not in filters in LinkedIn Recruiter.
Right, which is what I do. Is if I know of a really good engineering manager, if I know a really good marketing manager, I will go to their profile and see who they have recommended.
I really think recommendations is an underutilized piece in LinkedIn. I wish it got used more and became a searchable item, because getting back, Cinder, to your point, you don't want to hire somebody just because of the color of their skin. You don't want to not hire them because of the color of skin. So if we go into a meritocracy, how as a recruiter, how can I really find the good people? Or good people by highly skilled, I mean. But years ago, I worked at a computer gaming company, and we used to, in our CRM, not our ATS, but we would map out companies and the games that they developed. And then, much like if you look at the back of an album, you can see who the audio engineer was, and the writer and all that. We would map out by game the individual engineers who worked by game. So we would kind of look, hey, that was a great game, let's try and get that person. Or that was a crappy game, don't use them for any UI type of recs you're recruiting for. So really getting into the nitty gritty of the projects that people worked on, which is another feature I don't think LinkedIn utilizes, or the people. Roseanne, to your point, or your area, I would highly recommend people start to work on their projects within their profile. But again, I don't think LinkedIn Recruiter can search against projects. Does everybody know what I'm talking about with the projects feature?
Yeah, not searchable.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's gonna be an interesting world in 2021 to see where people go. But I think there's opportunities in LinkedIn, both from the talent side and from the recruiter side, to grow that out. So Katie, to your point about them expanding that connection, that's a big win. Eric, I know we're sort of running a little late. Eric, let's jump over you and anything you want to cover, but can I kind of put you on the spot a little bit?
Sure.
Can you kind of speak to, because we've been talking about finding people and getting people and engaging people. Once we have them, I'm a big fan of good, organized project folders in LinkedIn. Can you kind of go over your thoughts on project management within LinkedIn?
Yes. So obviously LinkedIn gives you the ability to save any search, but you must save it to a project. One of the first projects I recommend recruiters do is just have a catch-all project folder called Eric's Searches. And I can build searches or beginning building block searches in that. Sean, do you want me? I can share my screen for 10 seconds and just show, I have some of this stuff teed up and ready to go for you.
Sure. Grab
Okay.
it.
I think it'll make it a little easier. So you could easily, come in here and build your saved searches in a way that will give you the ability to, click as you build a search. Once you have it in a project, in this case, I have a project folder called Eric Searches, and it's in my talent pool. Then I can come in here, and every time I make a deviation from that or variations of my searches, I can just come up here to near the little trash can, click on that, and I can say save it as a new search in that area. Okay, so it gives me a real simple way to save multiple searches very, very fast and very, very easily. And I don't think a lot of recruiters tend to build searches in this way. They tend to often build only one search in a single project rather than layering multiple searches or variations of searches in a project. So I highly recommend. There's nothing wrong with having dozens of project folders and sharing them. I think the limit now is still 50. But if you're an enterprise account, you can have more than that. But people have folders, and I just recommend a basic save searches folder for just a grouping of searches. And what's nice about that, when you have a project, one of the filters in the set that you can say is eliminate me or hide the candidates that I've already seen in this project. And you can hide for 3 months or 6 months. So I turn those on frequently so that you don't have to see the same candidates against multiple searches. Well, I may have 25 searches in their project, but as I hide all those searches, I don't see those candidates again if they're variations of the same search. So did I answer your question, Sean, or do I need to be more detailed for you?
Yeah, and for the record, that wasn't a stage segue that you had. I was just, I got lucky here. I just think there's an art of project management for that. So yeah, anything that you're covering, that's great.
Yeah, I had two things I wanted to cover. And just for those of you who don't know me, I've been recruiting for 20 years, both on the agency side as an independent recruiter for many corporations. And also I work in software sales, selling products to help recruiters build better searches. So I really love building searches, and LinkedIn Recruiter is dominant in the force, and it's not going to go anywhere. And those who've had privilege of using it should use it every day. If you have a LinkedIn Recruiter license, use it, abuse it, find out how to make it work for you. And building saved searches, you have 50 saved searches. Think of them as your little minions and staff that work for you. Because if you build your saved searches, you can be notified of the new results in those saved searches. And you also can click on them and see the delta or the newest candidates that are qualified in your saved searches. So if you ran it yesterday and 100 candidates came up in the same search, and then you run it, and it runs in the background, and tomorrow when you log in, it'll say a little number right next to it, 10. And those are the 10 candidates that didn't meet the criteria yesterday that do meet the criteria now. But if you didn't save the search, you would just get 110, and you wouldn't know which 10 were the newest updates. So the only way you can find the newest, freshest updates or changes, people change their titles, their companies, their locations, is building saved searches. So if you have a LinkedIn Recruiter license, build 50 saved searches and start looking at the deltas, the things that people are doing to their profiles to change those. And if you're working with a group of recruiters, use each other's saved searches, and those who have saved searches in LinkedIn Recruiter that can share those results with people on the team who don't have LinkedIn Recruiter. Maybe they just have LinkedIn free. Other than saved searches, I highly recommend that you start building custom filters. I'm going to show just a quick example of a custom filter. A custom filter, think of it as a building block. It's a small little block of code that you can then filter on top of anything. So right now we're doing a lot of postings, and a lot of companies are posting jobs that say they want candidates remote, okay? And they say, we're in the Boston market or the San Francisco market, and candidates can live remote. Well, candidates are applying all over the country thinking remote, but really what they prefer is someone in the Pacific time zone, if the company's in the Pacific time zone, because everybody meets, and eventually maybe even they want someone remote in the state or in the county. So LinkedIn has done a lot of changes recently on locations. So now we used to have metro areas, but now we can go down to the city, the county, and the state level. And what we did is we built a couple filters that was simply, we went in and cleared all our, hit the trash can button here, cleared everything, and then built a filter for East Coast time zone versus West Coast time zone. Just selected all the states in the 2 time zones. So when I bring up a search, if I only want East Coast candidates because of the time zone differentiation and the preferences of that manager, Or if I know I want to call those candidates first in the morning, I can just build a custom filter for East Coast, West Coast. The same filter capability as you build your search, you can just save a new search here and it adds to the list, can be done by historically Black MBA schools, can be done by competitors that have diverse pools. It can be done by groups that you've already built or tags that you built. So a custom search, once you have it, think of it as a building block that you can apply on any search, and then you can layer them and save the search with the filter and without the filter, or with multiple filters if you choose. So you can stack them up. So if you're not using custom filters, you have lots of them you can build. Use your saved searches first, use your custom filters second. Okay, do I have one more, Sean? Can I give one more tip before I go?
Yeah, but real quick, call me silly because I thought searches and filters were pretty much the same thing. Go on
Yep.
to your next item.
The last one is simply, I want to just show the obvious for people. We have lots of recruiters who think picking from the pick list is the way to go. Look at this search I just built here for just a single word search, which is the word recruiter in quotes. 650,000 people in the United States have the recruiter as their current title. This is in the field right here, recruiter in the current title. Now, that I typed in manually. Okay, I put Boolean in and I put it in quotes. But look what happens when I do this. If I click in here and type in the word recruiter, pause, it gives me several things I can pick. I can pick this one, which is a pick list of 27 recruiter words. I can click that, okay, and it picks it off the pick list. And when I hover over those, I can click on this little dot here, and it says, these are the 29, I'm sorry, I thought it was 27, words that represent that cluster represented by the word recruiter. But notice this cluster only brought up 450,000. It lost 200,000 candidates in the United States that had the word recruiter. So it's not a perfect match. The word recruiter in quotes actually pulled up more, okay? And then people make the mistake also of just picking it off the pick list. So rather than putting it in quotes, I'm gonna now choose it again. I'm gonna type in the word recruiter, and I'm gonna pick this one instead. And when I pick up that one, which again, a third alternative, you would think that would be the same as doing recruiter in quotes, and now I'm down to 350. I lost 300,000 candidates by putting it off the pick list. So my recommendation is always, 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 for the maximum number of candidates, if you're going to use titles or any of the fields that have Boolean, title, company, keywords, always use the Boolean operators and put them in specific exact match areas where I can put the word recruiter in quotes, like that. And when I hit enter, I will get many more candidates this way than I will. And if I want to double down, I can pick the pick list version. And if I want to do a third option, I can pick the one on the list. And that way I've got all three options just in case to see if there's more. But the fact is, when I've tested this, really just putting the word in quotes is going to get you what you need most of the time and will be far easier than having to pick multiple versions. So really recommend you look at just using the word in quotes. If you know Boolean, put the words in quotes, use your ands and ors when given the option. Do not pick from the pick list. You're missing hundreds of thousands of candidates that your competitors aren't finding.
Eric, it's hard to tell if you're passionate about this stuff or not. All right.
I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, no, that was all great stuff. I got to ask you a question about, so you talked about basically building a library for yourself, right? You call them the minions and what have you. My question for you, and this is going back to kind of what Katie talked about, hey, LinkedIn was good. No, it's great because they did this update. Because recruiters, the lifespan of a recruiter at a company isn't forever, right? It's a few years. With LinkedIn, as I'm sure we all know, and tell me if this has changed, is my understanding, when you're in your LinkedIn recruiter account, you're there at your employer. You're essentially, it's understood that the employer owns everything, right? So when you leave, all that library that you built, all that content, right? You keep your LinkedIn network if you made one as you were there.
Right.
Is there a way, and this goes for all panelists and audience members, is there a way to, if I go and build that library, if I build my saved searches or what have you, and now I've gone to work at another company, how do I bring that with me?
You have to cut and paste it and make a Word document out of it so you can quickly build it again. It stays with the company. Your LinkedIn recruiter seat, the LinkedIn recruiter admin, when you leave a company, your replacement or someone else on the team takes over your account. Therefore, they take over all your projects, they take over all your saved searches, and you walk out with nothing unless you've copied those in a way you can quickly build them on your next company.
Are you sure that gets transferred like that?
Oh yeah, I do it all the time. Yeah. So if I leave a company and you take over my seat, I just put your name in the slot as an admin. And when you log into your LinkedIn Recruiter account, you see all my saved searches, you see all my old projects, all my posted jobs. So the LinkedIn admin person forwards that seat to the new holder, and you become the holder of the account while you're working for the company. But the company owns all that.
So it's seat to seat, right? That's what you're saying?
Yep. So if you take my seat when I leave, you take over my projects, my searches, my postings.
So if you're a LinkedIn admin, you should be careful about who you assign a seat to, right? Because if you do it one time, can you fix it if you messed it up?
Yeah, you can. If for example, let's say I have 10 slots and I have 3 of them unfilled currently. A recruiter leaves, I give you one of my unfilled runs rather than giving you the incumbent's seat. Sometimes people make that mistake. You can just we used to name them slots 1 through 10. So if I was holding slot 6, and my replacement would get then slot 6 again, so they wouldn't accidentally get slot 7 or 8, which didn't have my searches in.
Yeah, I've been at places where, hey, you had 10 seats, but you had 14 people asking for it, and then you kind of got to share accordingly. And you have HR wants one, so they get one, but then we'll give it up later, but they want it back at the beginning of the quarter, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, the saved searches and saved projects go with the seat in the slot. The name who's babysitting the slot can be changed, but everything else stays the same.
Now, what you can also do is you can, because myself as a manager, granted my team at MOOCSOft was only 4 people, but if someone left who had a seat, I had it all transferred over to me so that I got everything. And then if there were searches that I felt like needed to go to other recruiters, I would do that. I would distribute them.
Excellent. So
you can't do that if you have a team of 60.
So hey, we're coming up to the hour. I do want to add one tactic that I recommend everybody do. And it kind of falls under what I was just talking about, where we switch a company. And I worked many years as a consultant, so I had to have very short projects where I'd go into a company. But I would do this at every one that I went to. And I use it kind of my new guy introduction. So whenever I go into a new employer, they would get your LinkedIn Recruiter account, let's say. I would immediately start to connect with my coworkers, right? My employees, because I wanted to build a network of the people who are already there so I could connect with them and see into their network. So I would use LinkedIn Recruiter to send in-mails to my coworkers. I send off like 50 a day, and I would do it. First thing I did at 8 o'clock, I'd show up, I'd send off my 50, send off the emails and say, hey, I'm the new guy. Can I send you a connection request? So I wouldn't directly send a connection request first. I'd send that in mail. You get about 50% response, so you're not walking that line of being put in LinkedIn jail. So you get that response back, sure, send it away. And then I would send it to them. That would allow me to, like I worked at Sony Pictures. So now I have like 600 people who work in the movie business by just ping, ping, ping. So if you know, I don't know if anybody knows this too about your LinkedIn, every company has a in-mail max, and it's a 90-day, again, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a 90-day use it or lose it. So if you've had an account for more than 90 days, every month you're losing in-mails if you don't use them. So if your company has an excess of in-mails, to me, they're kind of free for the taking. If they don't, well, you need that for recruiting talent. But if you got, and usually there's thousands left at companies where they're just not used because you just don't use that many in-mails. I would use that to build your network of your coworkers. And then if they leave or you leave, you still got that connection, and that network goes where you go. Especially if you're a diversity recruiter, I'd be sure to know, because I can get that report from HR. Hey, who's in our company who's diverse? I want to make sure I'm touching base with them to reach into their network and stuff like that. So building out your connection to your coworkers would be a tool that I would do. You don't have to do it when you start at a company. You can do it anytime, but it's just a great time. It's an easy intro. Hey, I'm the new guy. Let's connect. And then you'd actually see who's active on LinkedIn too. That's another reason why I did the in-mails, because then you could see, well, who checks their in-mails? Some do, some don't. So it's sort of an interesting little piece of it. So that's my one little suggestion I would recommend every recruiter do if they have a LinkedIn Recruiter account, is to build that coworker network. All right, we're coming up on the hour. Any final thoughts or comments from anybody in the panelists? I can do a little round the clock piece of it. Just Roseanne, I'm going to be coming to you. You're on mute. Any final thoughts or comments on utilizing LinkedIn?
No, I think we covered a lot, and I actually learned from my fellow panelists, so thank you all.
Katie, any last comments?
Same. No, I'd say if you have a LinkedIn recruiter seat, please make sure you use it. It is a great tool for us in the industry. But thank you to the panelists. I picked up tips from each and every one of you. So thank you for having me.
And Eric?
I have a last tip for Zoom. If you've been opening in the chat window and following the chat, at the bottom of the chat in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see 3 dots. Click the 3 dots and you can save chat. That way you can save all the good information and reach out to people in the chat room afterwards. So just down there, ... hit save chat. It's a great way to export your chat and follow up later on with anybody you need to.
And
Thank you for everyone.
Cinda, before I come to you, Eric, just on your point, we're recording this. I'll post this up on our Recruiting Network website. And I do copy and paste all the chat in there too, in case you forget to do that little trick. I did not know that either. Lesson learned about Zoom. And Cinda, final comments to you.
Yeah, no, I want to reiterate that I learned a lot of things on this as well. So I was, yeah, Eric, your passion, wow. Just is amazing. But I want to thank everyone, and especially for, we're talking about so many different things that people can find a little uncomfortable to talk about. And I think that went with every one of our panelists. And the fact that we can now talk about it, I think is a beautiful thing.
Yep. Agreed. I think it's going to be many more conversations to be had here in 2020, end of 2020, beginning of 2021. All right. With that said, thank you very much, everybody. I'll let you go. Have a great day, and I'll talk to everyone soon.
Wow.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.